It's Friday. I'll be going to see the Savannah Bananas tonight at Bank of America Stadium, where the Bananas have 75,000 fans for both nights. Amazing. It's a homecoming of sorts because Savannah Banana founders Jesse and Emily Cole first ran a team called the Gastonia Grizzlies just outside of Charlotte, and they got engaged there in 2014. It's also where they still live with their 3 children. The Bananas in Charlotte tonight in front of 75,000 people both Friday and Saturday. If you go, I would love to hear your thoughts and impressions of the Bananas. And this is your morning Buzzcast for Friday, June 6th. I'm Abe Madkour. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, he laid out the state of the NBA before Game 1 of the NBA Finals on Thursday night, and he had a few notable points to share. Most notable, it was on expansion. He said NBA expansion is not automatic and that a key moment will be the next Board of Governors meeting this July in Las Vegas. He said yes, the league should be exploring expansion, and that it is, but that it's far from imminent. One key element to keep in mind is whether NBA owners want to split the league's overall revenue, especially its new media deals with new ownership groups. With new owners comes more dilution of distributions. Silver also said he'd like to find a solid solution to the NBA's local media and RSN business before expansion. And finally, a third factor to keep in mind is competition from Europe. Yes, we've talked a lot about a new European basketball league, and that may take the focus over domestic expansion. So a lot of things at play as the NBA possibly looks to expand. Let's move on. We talked about SailGP recently on the Buzzcast. And what is SailGP? I liken it to Formula One on the water. High performance, international sailing with Grand Prix around the world. Again, very premium and high end. This sport you should keep an eye on because it continues to draw interest and investors. Now, actors Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have acquired a controlling stake in SailGP's Australian team, which is being rebranded to the Bonds Flying Ruse SailGP team. That's because they signed a title sponsor, Australian underwear brand Bonds, so hence the new name. This announcement came Thursday in New York before SailGP's New York race this coming weekend, which they have been heavily promoting in that market. So why is this interesting? Well, financial terms were not disclosed, but this is the second SailGP team to sell this year, along with Red Bull Italy. That was recently valued at $45 million. SailGP has a U.S. team currently seeking new investment at a valuation of $125 million. Bottom line, these teams continue to increase in value. Investors are really interested in the growth prospects as there is a sense that these valuations are going to increase significantly in the coming years. So this is pretty impressive for a league, SailGP, that's only been in existence for 5 years, and most people don't even know what it is or have seen it ever live. So it's a sport and a property to keep an eye on. Also, who I continue to watch, Ryan Reynolds. He's becoming quite the sports mogul, isn't he? His sports investing presence continues to grow. Of course, he co-owns Wrexham with Rob McElhenney. He's also an investor in a Colombian soccer team, an Alpine F1 team, and now he adds SailGP to his sports portfolio. We touched on the FIFA Club World Cup on the Buzzcast earlier this week. The event, which starts in about 10 days, has a new sponsor. Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund will be a sponsor of the Club World Cup, and that will be held from June 14th through July 13th in the United States, of course. Now, the PIF becomes the event's 8th sponsor. There's Anheuser-Busch, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, Hisense, Lenovo, Qatar Airways, and Visa. So blue chip brands, of course, FIFA has brought on board for the Club World Cup. FIFA already has a deep connection with Saudi Arabia. Remember, they will host the 2034 World Cup. Surge Sports, which is the PIF's sports investment arm, also invested earlier this year in DAZN, which has global media rights for the Club World Cup. If you want to watch the Club World Cup in the United States, it'll either be on DAZN or some matches sub-licensed to Warner Brothers Discovery. So back to Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. Talk about a growing sports portfolio. They have Newcastle. They have Live Golf. Now they're a sponsor of the Club World Cup. They will also, of course, have partnerships with the ATP and WTA tennis tours. So the PIF expanding its sports portfolio as well. You know, there's more clarity to the future of the Chicago White Sox, as Justin Ishbia is an owner in waiting, as longtime owner Jerry Reinsdorf and Ishbia reached a long-term agreement that establishes a framework for Ishbia to obtain future controlling interest in the White Sox. This is very interesting. Jerry Reinsdorf is 89. He will have the option to sell his controlling interest to Ishbia from 2029 to 2033. So we have some time here, but if a deal does get done, it would mark the end of an era for Jerry Reinsdorf and the White Sox. Jerry Reinsdorf, an incredibly influential individual, not just in Major League Baseball, but of course in the NBA. Reinsdorf has been the White Sox chairman since he and Eddie Einhorn led a group that purchased the franchise from Bill Veeck in 1981. He has been the day-to-day decision maker for so many years. But now we're starting to see a path to changing controlling interest in the White Sox. And you may say the Ishbia name is familiar. Well, of course it is. Remember, Justin Ishbia and his brother, Matt, bought a majority stake in the Phoenix Suns, Phoenix Mercury, and Justin Ishbia is the alternative governor also for Major League Soccer's Nashville SC team. So his sports portfolio continues to grow as well. So now we see a path for Justin Ishbia to take over, eventually, potentially, the Chicago White Sox from owner Jerry Reinsdorf. We'll end the Buzzcast on some names in the news. USA Gymnastics, they will be looking for a new leader, as CEO Li Leung will leave her role at the end of the year after a 6-year run in which she led USA Gymnastics really out of crisis and rebuilt this organization. I bring this up because the work that she did likely went unnoticed by so many people. But just remember what an organizational mess USA Gymnastics was, mired in one of the worst sexual abuse crises in sports, and she led such a positive and dramatic turnaround for USA Gymnastics since coming aboard in 2019. I'll just say, what a hard job. She had to institute reforms, cultural changes to really get the trust of the athletes. She had to really regain the trust of athletes and corporate partners. She had to rebuild the entire commercial program. Sponsors left USA Gymnastics. She brought back critical sponsors like Nike. This is hard work. And her results and the results of USA Gymnastics were impressive. Because remember, once they got to Paris this past summer, they killed it with such a great performance at the Summer Olympics. So Li Leung came to USA Gymnastics from the NBA. She is a 2024 SBJ Game Changer honoree, and she'll stay at USA Gymnastics as it looks for her successor. They've retained CAA to lead that search. She does not currently have another position lined up. I personally just hope she takes some time off because it is so well-deserved, the work she did to turn around USA Gymnastics. And Live Golf formally announced Chris Heck as Live Golf's first ever president. He'll be joining his longtime friend and colleague, Scott O'Neill, as Live really begins the second half of its 2025 season. Chris Heck and Scott O'Neil, they go way back. They have a long history. The two were at Villanova for the same 4 years. They both worked in the NBA's league office. They both had high-ranking roles with the Philadelphia 76ers. Scott O'Neil left the Sixers as their CEO in 2021. Chris Heck was the team's president. He left a year later. Now, Chris Heck has been president of business operations for the Premier League club, Aston Villa, and he's had a great run there. They really grew revenue dramatically at that club, and Chris Heck has really been a revenue driver throughout his career, and that is a focus of Live Golf, to grow the league and to grow revenue around Live Golf. And Chris Heck was an SBJ 40 under 40 honoree in 2008, and now he joins Scott O'Neil as they look to grow and expand Live Golf. And finally, I'll end with this. Women's softball. Wow. Game 3 of the College Women's World Series will be Friday night. Game 1 on Wednesday. 2.1 million viewers on ESPN. Those are big numbers and rival a lot of bigger sports properties out there. So the Women's College World Series certainly finding an audience. And then there is the launch this weekend of Athletes Unlimited Softball League. That's on Saturday. Remember, Kim Ang is the commissioner there. There are 4 teams playing 24 games apiece in 10 cities. Over the summer, we'll keep our eye on that league, which launches on Saturday. And an SBJ programming note, make sure you check out the SBJ Sports Media Podcast. We talk about NBA Finals ratings, we talk about the Stanley Cup Final rematch and what that means for viewership, and we also talk to Ally Financial's Andrea Brimmer about her vision for women's sports and that brand's support of women's sports. All that and more on the SBJ Sports Media Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And that is your morning Buzzcast for Friday, June 6th. I'm Abe Madkour. Stay healthy, be good to each other. I'll speak to you on Monday.